Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's a packed room. Happy to be back in the committee room. This is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and I'm going to read the mandate of the committee. The Public Accounts Committee is established for the purpose of reviewing the public accounts, the annual report, or other report of the Auditor General, and any other financial matters respecting the public funds of the province. My name is Susan LeBlanc, and I am the chair of the committee. And just before we begin, I'd like to remind you to make sure your phone is on silent. And if we need to leave the building, please exit through the doors onto Granville Street and then gather in Grand Parade. So I'm going to ask the committee members to introduce themselves. I'll begin with the member to my left, and I'm going to ask you to say your name, your constituency, and your pronouns, preferred pronouns, please. Thank you.
Good morning. Marco McLeod, Pictou West, he, him.
I'm Wong, MLA, Waverley, Fall River, Beaverbank.
Tom Taggart, MLA, Colchester North, for Tom, or MLA Taggart.
Tim Outfit, MLA, Bedford Basin, he, him, Tim.
Ian Rankin, Timberley Prospect, he, him.
Derek Lumbercat, Sydney Member 2, he, him.
Paul Wozni, Sackville Cobequid, he, him.
Diane Timmons, MLA for Victoria Lakes, she, her.
Thank you, and my pronouns are she, her. Excuse me. We also have officials from the Office of the Auditor General, Legislative Council, and Legislative Committee's office here today. And on today's agenda, we have officials with us from the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, the Department of Public Works, and the Halifax Regional Centre for Education. And the topic is the 2025 report of the Auditor General School Capital Planning. So welcome to everyone. I'm going to ask the witnesses now to introduce themselves, and state your name, your organization or your position, and pronouns, please. So we'll begin with Mr. Gallagher.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Gallagher, the Executive Regional Director of the HRCE, and he, him.
Thank you, Doug Hadley, Coordinator, Strategic Planning Programs and Partnerships with HRCE, he, him.
I'm Tina Thibault, and I'm with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. I'm a Senior Executive Director, he and she, her. Thank you.
Good morning, Tracy Barbrick, the Deputy Minister of Department of Education, Early Childhood and Advanced Education, she, her.
Good morning, Tanya McClellan, Executive Director with the Department of Public Works, and she, her.
Good morning, Gerard Jessam. I'm the Executive of Engineering with Building Infrastructure with the Department of Public Works.
Flesh, Deputy Minister, he, him.
Great, thank you very much. So I will invite Deputy Barbrick to make opening remarks, then Mr. Jessam, and then Mr. Gallagher. How does that sound? So Deputy Barbrick.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. We're looking forward to the conversation. I am joined by Tina, who introduced herself. Also in the room from the Department of Education and Early Childhood is Tyler Bell behind me. Tyler's the project executive on capital and operations projects. Firstly, thank you to Auditor Kim Adair and her office for their important work and recommendations on Nova Scotia's school capital planning process. The department has agreed with all of the recommendations and has already begun implementing recommendations as part of our commitment to continuous improvement and responsible stewardship of public resources. With the Departments of Public Works and Finance, along with Regional Centres for Education and the Conseil Scolaire Acadian Provincial organization, we are strengthening and modernizing the school capital planning process to ensure better transparency, equity, and evidence-based decision-making. In recent years, we have made historic investments in school infrastructure. Through our more than $1 billion multi-year school capital plan, Nova Scotia is responding to immediate and future needs while providing safe, comfortable environments for our students and school staff. Right now, 19 new or replacement schools are part of our school capital plan and at various stages in our capital process. As we work with the Department of Public Works to advance new and replacement schools, we also invest in preserving, refreshing, and extending the life of existing schools. Annual funding to repair and refresh school buildings is now at $30 million, a major increase from just $6 million a few years ago. Over the past 2 years, this funding has supported more than 100 school maintenance projects across the province. We also invest in modular classrooms to respond to immediate growth needs. While we build out our ambitious capital plan, modular classrooms let us act quickly so we can address growth now and into the future. Together with regions, CSAP, the Departments of Public Works and Finance, we are planning and delivering the school capital projects that communities need most. I assure you we share an unwavering commitment to responsible, equitable, and evidence-based planning and advancing all school projects as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Barbrick. And now we'll move to Mr. Jessom, please.
Good morning, and thank you for the invite to speak with the committee today. I am Chief Executive of Engineering Building Infrastructure with the Department of Public Works. I'm joined here today with Paula Flesch, Executive Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, Tanya McClellan, Executive Director of Design and Construction, and behind us is Chris Duranahan, Director of Educational Infrastructure. Building and maintaining provincial infrastructure is a core function of the Department of Public Works. This includes managing schools and communities across the province. We work closely with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development and the Regional Centres of Education to deliver schools that best meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Once a community has been identified as requiring a new school, we work closely with Education and Early Childhood Development on the site selection process, design, and the construction process. We are also responsible for major renovation projects. These projects are guided by close collaboration with the Regional Centres for Education. By working together, we are able to use both our departments' skill sets, Education and Early Childhood Development's understanding of what Nova Scotia families need in a modern, accessible school, and Public Works' knowledge of how to construct, deliver these projects. Across the construction sector, we are seeing more challenges. These include inflation, labor disruptions, and supply chain issues. These problems can result in rising costs and longer timelines. But we work very hard to find solutions to limit the impact they have and keep these projects moving forward. We are always looking at ways to deliver the best value for Nova Scotians. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer the committee's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jessom. And now Mr. Gallagher, please.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Today, the HRCE is comprised of more than 60,000 students, 10,000 staff, and 136 schools, organized in 18 families. For the past several years, the HRCE's story has been one of enrollment growth. Between 2017 and 2025, our enrollment has increased by more than 11,000 students. This rapid expansion represents a period of change greater than any other in my 28-year career as an educator in Halifax, and it has not been without its challenges. Fortunately, the HRCE has been able to lean on strong partnerships with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development and the Department of Public Works to meet this challenge through a significant capital commitment. Since 2017, the HRCE has received 8 new schools in communities across the HRM, with plans to open 11 more in the coming years. In addition, we've responded to this growth with the addition of 187 modular classrooms, which create annex facilities at schools, and 53 standalone portable classrooms. Our partnership has also led to meaningful investment in our existing schools in recent years. Since 2021, more than $32 million has been invested in upgrades, including, but not limited to, heating systems, roof repairs and replacements, window and building upgrades, and accessibility improvements. Today, our planning team, led by my colleague Doug Hadley, who is also here today, actively monitors our growth, identifies potential areas of concern, and makes recommendations to the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, all with the goal of ensuring that there is space for every student in the HRCE to grow, to learn, and to thrive. I look forward to answering any questions the committee may have regarding enrollment growth in the HRCE. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to get into questioning now, and I will say that there's a lot on there's a lot to talk about. And so, if any MLAs ask a question and want to move on to their next question, please do flag me, and I will call order and ask the witness to wrap up their current comment quickly, and then we'll move on. Also, I will remind you that once the 20 minutes for that we divide the time into 20 minutes, and when those 20 minutes end, I have to call order. So pardon me in advance for my rudeness. I'll try not to be rude. Okay, so we'll begin questioning with MLA Wozni, please.
Thank you, Chair. This question is for the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. The Auditor General's report flagged a lack of transparency in how decisions around new growth investments are made. We know that the department, in some manner of consultation with Regional Centres for Education and the CSAP, identify potential school capital projects. But what remains unclear is how the minister uses that information to make recommendations to Cabinet, which is where the funding decisions are actually made. To your knowledge, how does the minister decide which projects to bring forward to Cabinet, and who, at the local level, helps inform this decision-making?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So process-wise, there's kind of two major steps in this process. First is the RCEs and CSAP identifying their primary needs based on all of the things that Mr. Gallagher outlined, and they go through a screening process for all those needs on the capital repair side, rationale for the project, the condition of existing facilities, modulars and portable use, community impact, safety concerns, program needs. So they identify as part of their screening process a whole filtering kind of element. Then they bring their recommendations on what they need forward to the department. The department then has a committee that goes through a scoring process, and that committee includes the department, Public Works, Department of Finance, and the projects that are identified or the needs that are identified are sifted and sorted between a low, medium, and high need based on all of that evidence that's provided. Those recommendations are brought forward to the minister. The minister, based on the funding envelope that we have available, makes selections within that envelope and advances it to Cabinet.
MLA Wozni.
Thank you for that answer. I heard an answer to most of my question. The one piece that remains outstanding is the question of how local voice is taken into consideration in this process. I didn't hear any mention whatsoever of the role of local voice. The current minister has been loud and clear that, the new era of enhanced parent voice through the school advisory council process, that doesn't appear in the verbiage put forward in the audit or in your answer. My question again is, how does local voice show up in the planning process, in the decision-making process, about what gets approved by Cabinet when it comes to new growth builds?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks. So one of the pieces, and I think the HRCE will talk about throughout the conversation here, is the identification of population growth expectations and enrollment trends. So there's quite a significant software piece that identifies where those needs are. That's the information that goes into deciding how do we use our capital envelope based on the needs for education across the province. When projects are selected that are based on that evidence and the work continues, when the design step, so in the build step, there's a number. So once a decision is made that you're going to build a new school or do a major renovation on a new school, there's a number of steps that then happen. So there's the planning piece, then there's a site selection component that I'm sure Public Works will talk about, then there's the design of the school. That's where we create a school steering committee that is made up of parents, community, employees, that primarily is led by the RCE in its construction, and also part of that is education, early childhood, Public Works as the development of the design happens at the school level. Prior to that, the kind of recommendations that come in to the RCE for decisions around what will advance is based on evidence of population need in the area and the facility conditions that they're dealing with. So the community involvement happens at the stage where the design of a new or major renovation school is going to happen.
MLA Wozni?
In June of 2023, this question is also for the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. In June of 2023, the department announced it would build 4 new growth schools in HRM. Then in October of 2023, HRCE submitted a rank list of 6 areas that needed new growth schools. Why was the June 2023 announcement made before HRCE made clear to government when investments were needed and where?
Deputy Barbrick?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So HRCE identified 6 communities of need, primarily based on enrollment and growth. And between September 24 and February 25, all of those 6 projects were announced as proceeding.
MLA Wozni?
Thank you for that. My question is about the announcement and the sequence of announcement. So I'll say again, in June of 2023, the department announced that it would build 4 new growth schools in HRM. Several months later, in October of 2023, HRCE submitted a rank list of 6 areas that needed new growth schools. This is all documented in the Auditor General's report. My question is, why did the department's June announcement precede reception of the list of priority recommendations from HRCE?
Deputy Barbrick?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So one of the Auditor General's recommendations in this space of new growth schools, so I would say prior to the last 5 years, school announcements and a capital plan didn't exist. So the capital plan identified in 2019 a list of priority schools based on various things. And since then, we've continued to look at kind of capital needs of the school, especially with the growth that Mr. Gallagher identified in HRCE. So a number of things, and the Auditor General's comments around the replacement schools. There's a really good process on replacement schools. So all of the kind of dimensions around the condition of the existing school, the use of modulars, community impact, occupational health and safety, all of those things. So,
order, please. Yeah. No. Emily Wozni?
Thank you. I'd like to ask a couple questions to HRCE on this particular line. I'm wondering if someone from HRCE can walk us through HRCE's side of the timeline that resulted in you putting forward 6 areas for new growth schools in October of 2023. I'm wondering if you can outline what was requested by the department regarding that list and when it was requested.
Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the question. There's a couple of nuances here that may be lost in the way that this work happens, and there is a significant back and forth between the HRCE and the department. At the time that the spring June announcement was made, that was based on conversations and meetings that were happening ongoing. We had identified that these were 4 schools, areas where we needed schools. Later on in the fall, we were asked about priority in terms of, and this is where I think it gets conflated, because there's announcement and there's construction, and the two are different. Construction and the timeline has an awful lot to do with acquiring land, and I don't want to speak for Department of Public Works, but my understanding of the circumstance was that they were slow walking it so they could acquire land and not have an announcement made and see real estate prices go up because it was government shopping, which I was, certainly as a taxpayer, I'm very happy to hear that. We had identified the 4 quite readily through internal conversation. We were then asked to prioritize what would the sequence of build be. And we actually were asked for 5, and we snuck a 6th on there, identifying that, oh, since you're asking, here's another area that we've surfaced of need. So that's when we provided that documentation. But to go back to the beginning, ongoing conversations were happening on a regular basis. I was part of them. Certainly my colleague here, Doug, who leads our planning team, was deeply involved in the back and forth.
Emily Wozni?
Thank you, Chair. Further for HRCE, the Auditor General in her report specifically flagged the very sound, robust business case that came along with the pitch for the new growth school in Timberley, but noted the absence of similar rigor in the 5 other schools on HRCE's list. 4 of those schools were noted as having very little by way of substantial supporting evidence for their placement on a priority list. I'm wondering if you can speak to why a business case was submitted to EECD for the new growth school in Timberley, but not for any of the other 5 locations.
Mr. Gallagher, please.
Thank you, Chair. The difference there represents the evolution of our process, and it has everything to do with the fact that, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, our growth exploded after COVID, really, and the urgency with which we were working got ahead of process, and by the time we got to nailing down the details of what will be the new school in Brunello, we were asked to actually put together a comprehensive report. We were happy to do that, and it was easy to do because the evidence strongly supports a school in that area. But it was the result of, it came at the end of a process that was an awful lot of back and forth, and the recognition, I believe, I don't know, I wasn't in the room, but was requested to do it. The recognition was around putting a solid foundation in place going forward. But the growth we've experienced in the last 5 years is really certainly without precedent in Halifax, probably without precedent in Nova Scotia. You know, adding 11,000 students since 2017 is the equivalent of adding 2 of the other regions to our system. So there was a genuine lean in with our partners to solve the problem. But as we worked through, we got to a place where we needed a more solid foundation, and that's what that briefing note represents.
Emily Wozni.
Thank you for that answer. I would like to go back to EECD. Thousands of new homes and apartments are currently under construction in Dartmouth, and schools in the community are already busting at the seams. The same is true in Bedford. Why did Dartmouth and Bedford get announced months later than the other 4 schools on the list submitted by HRCE?
That's from Mr. Gallagher?
That's for EECD.
Oh, sorry. Deputy Barber, please.
Thank you. So Mr. Gallagher was hitting on a pretty critical point there in terms of growth in general. So the Auditor General's comments were in the space of, for replacement schools, you've got a pretty good process. For these new growth schools, it's loose. So given that prior to 2020, nobody ever predicted that we were going to be talking about growth schools, growth nursing homes, growth. We were not projecting this kind of population growth. So Mr. Gallagher is bang on in the comment that we were responding to unexpected growth, the likes of which the province hadn't seen, and our process was lagging practice. So those are the things that Auditor General Adair commented on, and we 100% accept and are working on that now. So those growth schools, of the 6 that were identified by HRCE, all on enrollment, all on their heat maps, all on what we know is to be growth in the province, those 6 were identified. So in the span of 5 months, all 6 were announced. So there's a number of reasons involved kind of in that. There's land to be kind of explored. There is risk that once we identify locations, land price goes up. So there are a number of kind of levers being factored in, and all in 5 months, all 6 were announced. So they were all critical need areas based on population growth. And within 6 months, which, really is a bit of semantics about which one came first, all 6 were announced. And so the Auditor General's recommendations around tightening up new growth school process, 100%, we're on it. We get it. And we weren't prepared because nobody was prepared for this kind of growth. And now we're playing catch up with some process to nail that all down. And the most important part is 6 schools, 6 communities were in critical need. All 6 are proceeding and have been announced.
MLA Wozni?
Yeah, I would say no one questions the need for schools in the 6 identified communities. The question raised by the Auditor General's report is the lack of process that's fair and transparent that demonstrates there's an evidence-based decision-making process at work in the public interest. Each of these projects is in the neighborhood or greater of $100 million, and the expenditure of this kind of money merits the faith of the public that people are making decisions based on evidence, and that's what's missing here. Anybody that lives in Bedford or Dartmouth would tell you that the explosive population growth that we're experiencing now was clearly on the horizon at the point that these schools were announced. They were already dealing with those pressures. I taught in one of those communities and have many friends that live in the other. So the idea that it came out of nowhere, I think, strains a little bit of reason. I want to pivot to a question for the EECD about St. Joseph Alexander McKay. Parents in North End Halifax have been busing their elementary-age children to a school that's more than half an hour outside of their community since 2021. They were told that this would be a temporary 2-year arrangement, with the new St. Joseph Alexander McKay school opening in 2023. Can the Department of Education speak to how this ball has been dropped so many times to date?
Deputy Barber, please.
Thank you. I will start, and then I expect some of my colleagues might have additions that are will kind of deepen that understanding. So 2018 SJAM, as we call it, was announced. At that time, it was planned to be a major renovation. In 2019, it was identified that a renovation wasn't going to cut it. It needed a full new construction. 2020, COVID hit. We spent, I know it's easy for us to forget now, but the entire globe was shut down for the better part of a year. And then following that was a major supply chain void. So in the middle of all this, and it can't be discounted because we all lived it at home. I spent time getting 1 million people vaccinated during that time. That was a massive disruption to everything. So looking back on timelines, we cannot forget that reality because we all lived it. So 2020, COVID hit. Then, because of the federal money that came in 2021, it was decided that a child care facility would be added to SJAM, which meant the design had to be refreshed to accommodate the addition of a child care facility. Also in that time, and again, my Public Works colleagues who project manage this whole show, unexpectedly, a whole lot of things had to happen on that site, including bedrock was in places it wasn't expected to be, water lines, sewer lines had to be completely moved outside of what the original design was. And of course, it has been a major disruption to the community and those families. And we understand the pressure that that has created for them and feel the urgency to get this school ready to go. But from 2018 to now, there has been some major events as part of that construction that meant it has morphed multiple times, and that has taken time.
Thanks. With basically a minute and a half, MLA Wozni.
Yeah. Parents of students in St. Joseph Alexander McKay are aware of all of these realities. But what they're disappointed by is the lack of communication about their new community school's progress and when it will be finished, and not being able to understand why there have been delays. In the Auditor General's report, it's noted that the department had committed to improving information on their website, by September 2025. Yet, clear dates, like when school projects were approved and when they will be open and their current status, remain missing. When will parents get the detailed updates that they deserve?
Deputy Barbrick with 30 seconds, please.
Thank you. So the families, certainly there has been an effort between our department, Public Works, and HRCE to ensure that the families are receiving updates on the progress of that project. The website has had some updates since the Auditor General's recommendations, and more are underway and should be available in the upcoming weeks.
Order, please. We will move on to MLA Mumberket, please, with 20 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll start us off before I pass it over to my colleague. Appreciate everybody being here today to be part of this committee. To Mr. Gallagher, this is something that's come up, and I've received a lot of kind of comments and response from local companies around the province who earn various businesses when it comes to construction. They can provide various aspects of these builds, and there's a lot of money being spent, a lot of taxpayers' money being spent on the construction of these schools. So my first question for you is, when you're building these schools, are you sourcing local the best you can? Like, are you looking at it through those lenses? Because there are some great companies around the province that could probably help along the journey of building this infrastructure. So that's my first question.
Is that for Mr. Gallagher, or would it be for Mr. Jessam?
Anybody, really. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Gallagher?
Mr. Jessam or Mr. Public Works.
Okay, Mr. Jessam.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, for sure. We're we use an open and transparent procurement process. It's competitive. Competition is what gets us the best prices, and I guess it's open for all that can provide that service.
MLA Mumberket.
Thank you, and I can appreciate that response. The government talks a lot about, supporting local and supporting Canadian, and we have to do whatever we can to support one another. So, it is my hope when all of these are under construction that we're actually using that lens, or we're engaging with companies, because I know companies myself that I talk to that haven't had the opportunity to engage in the conversation, and I think that there's a great opportunity to support Nova Scotia businesses who are employing people who are living in this province each and every day, and we should be looking to them as much as we can when we look at this construction, because, as I said, it's significant. I was involved with it a bit too in my time with the department. My next question is for Deputy Minister Babrick. You talk about projections, and one question I have: what are the future projections? Because 2021 and COVID, it's true. People from all over the world started coming to Nova Scotia. We've seen the population increase tenfold. Now we're in a situation where indications are that that's not going to be the case moving forward. So how do you adjust to that? What are your thoughts around what the future holds for enrollment trends? Not, in HRCE particularly, because we're talking about it in this report, but across the province. Do you feel the same growth is coming, or do you feel like we're going to pivot a bit?
Deputy Barbrick, please.
Yeah, thanks for that question. 10 months on the job at this department, and one of the things that I've been really, really impressed by is the use of this Barriger software tool that's used for enrollment predictions. So I'll talk a little bit about it in theory, but Mr. Gallagher and his team, and certainly Doug Hadley, use this tool every day, and they provide intel to the department on kind of the use of that tool. So it does a number of things. It factors in all the data in Power School. So if you've got kids in school, you probably look at Power School. The Provincial Birth Registry, the Canada Child Benefit, census data for women between the ages of 20 and 34, and new housing projects. So this software tool, or heat maps, they talk about generation of heat maps, really is a pretty sophisticated way of projecting what's coming. Of course, it didn't project the post-COVID bump that I think nobody was quite ready for. But it's a pretty sophisticated tool, and it's kind of active all of the time. And if you're interested in that, I'm sure my colleague down there can talk about its daily use more than I can.
MLA Marquette, please.
Yeah, and just to follow up, so what I'm interested in is, does the department look at that projection? We've seen the bump in COVID. Governments have made decisions around infrastructure based on that, but all the trends are saying that could change. So is the department looking at that potential too as well when you're setting new policies and you're looking at the report? Does the department still see that same strong growth in HRCE and across the province?
Deputy Barber, please.
Yeah, thanks for that. So the projections right now are cooling growth, still growth, but a cooling growth, which frankly would be a bit of a chance to catch up on some of these projects and move them forward. So we do expect Nova Scotia to have some continued growth over time, but not what it's been for the last 5 years.
MLA Marquette.
Thank you. And my next question would be, I assume, to Deputy Minister, but Public Works and HRC may want to jump in. Childcare was mentioned as well, and SGM, you were talking about adding a childcare centre to there. This is a hot conversation across the province, childcare, and getting to that target of the average of $10 a day by next year. Are you looking at, in all your construction projects, are you looking at adding childcare centres to them? Like, is that part of the decision-making process around any decisions around new construction and what currently is under place, whether it's a new school or in addition to an existing school?
Deputy Barbrick?
Thank you. Absolutely. So you would see if you ran down the website now on the 19 projects that are underway, a large portion of them have a child care facility included. So we are assessing through our child care team with every school whether there's need in that community or if that need is already met. So there's some pretty good data around demand at community level for childcare needs, very similar to census data, various kind of databases around what we expect to be available. And the standard now is if childcare is needed in that community, we are incorporating a childcare facility. I will add the caveat that we, of course, have an agreement with the federal government around some of those capital funds. So far, those child care facilities have been part of that capital fund. So we'll continue to negotiate with the federal government going forward on the ability to do that.
MLA Marquette?
I don't know if I missed this. My next question is around SGM. Is there a date for opening?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, as of right now, we know that it will be during this school year. And if you ever drive by that project, there's lots happening on a daily basis in that facility. The date is not finalized just yet.
MLA Rankin?
Sure, thanks. Thank you to all you for being here today on an important topic. I do appreciate the responsiveness of HRCE on looking at the new school planning for Timberley and, first of all, purchasing the land, which happened in May of 2024, and I would say the Timberley School should have been announced previously than September, and so that's my first question. Why did the department wait from the period of May and then do the announcement September 2024? Was there a direction from the Premier's office or some other source, the minister, to say now we're ready on the eve of an election, or why wait that extra 5 months to actually start moving forward with the planning? And then I will ask what the timeline is now for design, tendering, and construction of that school in Timberley.
Deputy Barbrick?
I can start with the first question, and then I'll kind of turn it over to my Public Works colleagues for the second question. So again, the HRC recommendations around 6 different communities were received. The financial position of the province is assessed as part of its larger capital plan, and in the span of 5 months between September and February, all 6 in the highest communities were identified and announced. And I think in terms of current status, I can defer to these.
Okay, so Mr. Justin or
Tanya.
Okay, Ms. McClellan, please.
Thank you. Yeah, as to the timeline, so we have engaged with the collaborative design build group, and schematic design now is currently underway. That process will take probably about a year. But until we get to the end of it, until we get all the details, the time for completion of that facility is still not 100% being able to lock down that date. But as we start to move further through the process and get more into detailed design, we will be able to comment on that further.
MLA Rankin?
Yeah, as a follow-up and just relative to the report from the Auditor General, so recommendation 1.2 does recommend, in consultation with the Public Works, the department work to resolve delays in construction at schools. The SGEM, as it's called, has gone through significant delays. Some schools went through multiple years before they even started construction. Some of that was land related. Timberley has pad ready, land ready to go, services in, everything. So just want to ask, how does the department change the procedures to ensure schools like the one in Timberley will be delivered on time and on budget?
Ms. McClellan?
Thank you for the question. So we have been working quite collaboratively to streamline this process. And one of the things we've pivoted with respect to how we're actually contracting and procuring. And one of those methods is we've moved to a collaborative design build process where we engage with a designer and a contractor at the very beginning. So we're able to really optimize the design and look for efficiencies as we do that. Other things that have been happening as well with our partners at EECD is we've been developing some very good guidelines. We've been looking at school planning guidelines as well, and just processes that we can repeat and give us a clearer path forward as we work through the number of schools that we have to deliver.
MLA Rankin.
So what can you say to families that you have the data that's pretty detailed on kids coming up through the system in terms of an approximate timeline when the school will actually open for families? So we have, a process around planning that's tightening up, and how much we have a planning website that shows some details, but really the timeline's very vague. So how frequently will the progress updates happen for community in terms of budgets, timeline, and milestones so that local families can plan ahead?
Ms. McClellan?
With respect to the timelines, that's not really something our department would communicate. We do communicate frequently on the process with our partners from EECD, but that would be their responsibility to work with the regional centers to provide those updates to communities.
Do you want to go to DEECD? Okay. MLA Rankin.
Just for interest of time, and my colleague mentioned childcare, and in the announcement in Timberley, there was a commitment for a childcare component in the building. There's wait lists at all our private centers. The deal was focused on nonprofit centers, prime opportunity to start tackling that wait list in the BLT area, as it's known. So question on that, if you can add the childcare rollout, and if there's a potential interim period, because we're talking obviously years, a few years at least, to build the center. So what's the plan to help with the childcare wait lists, along with the previous question around the school timeline?
Deputy Barbrick?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think I didn't actually come with lists of childcare information today, so I might have to follow that up. But certainly the childcare team, as part of the 9,500 additional spaces, of which we're about 7,000, a little over 7,000 toward now, have a number of capital projects that are in various states of completion. Most successfully, we've had huge increase in our before and after school care programs with all of our RCE partners, but in HRCE alone, this year we added a significant number of before and after school spaces. So that area is like a full court press between brand new under 6 full-time childcare as well as before and after school efforts. So I don't have the list for your area today on the childcare projects, but there's a pretty comprehensive website with all those capital projects identified there around additional capacity that's coming online. And then like I say, in addition to that, our kind of regular work, I think we added about 1,000 spaces this year in before and after school care across the province alone. So for those children over 6 that are in school, that's always a priority for us, is to have the children move as little as they can in the run of a day. And then under 6, of course, is full-time care.
So, Deputy Barwick, if you can forward that list to the committee, that would be great, to the clerk. MLA Rankin, please.
You might not have all of this information, but maybe it's also a follow-up that we can get the breakdown of the costs into this project, major project. So the full total on these 6 new schools is some $600–700 million. So this one's over $100 million. So I think that's the best way to get at where some of this money is funneling to help support the build, support a component of the bill for childcare, and maybe somebody can help me break this down in terms of the money spent on if land's included in that total, construction costs, contingencies, and all the rest.
Deputy Barwick or Mr. Jessam? Mr. Jessam.
Yeah, like we're continuing through the design process, so we don't have a final number that we can share at this point in time. Plus, there'll be some tendering going forward to get folks engaged in the construction process, I guess. So we really can't share that number at this point in time, but we closely monitor costs throughout the design process.
Thank you. MLA Rankin?
Okay, and I think an important question in terms of process and learning from Timberley, where the province spent $16 million on land, which is significant, but that's what the market value was. I'm not challenging the amount, but the province has now taken over the role in short order of chief planner in the HRM. With special planning areas and now some interim areas looking at where growth centers are. So what is the department doing, particularly in areas that they have inserted themselves as overruling HRM? But not only that, like what is the province doing to ensure that we don't get to a point where we're catching up with the growth and requiring, I would think, the development agreement for Brunello was smart to set aside land and not build and eventually sell it to the province. But in terms of the public interest, which all of you are tasked with, what is the province doing to ensure that there is dedicated land space that the developer can actually put up so that they don't just get approval for all of this new units? We do this for transportation, for new roads, financing, all that stuff. So what is the province going to do to ensure that we have space for kids to go to school in these new significantly large developments across HRM?
Mr. Jessam, please.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, for sure. We got to get, growth has been incredible for the last number of years, and we have to get out in front of that. We work very closely with developers, with the municipality, to identify growth areas in the city. Where's potential? Where's the housing is going to go? Where are people going to live? Based on that information and working closely with developers, we do have a strategic envelope of funding for land purchases in advance for public infrastructure. Could be schools, could be recreational centers, could be, could be long-term care, could be housing. So we try to get out in front, and that's the same thing as what happened with Timberley. We were working with the developer, working with the municipality and the HRCE and our partners at Education and Early Childhood Development to identify this as a growth area. Yeah, we need some land, let's get in. And when we do purchase property, we do our due diligence and we pay fair market value.
MLA Rankin with 30 seconds. Sorry, a minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, well, maybe I'll ask the question again. So the department is not, or the province is not considering mandating land for things of interest, like a school or something else. Like you're just talking about land that you may purchase. You're not looking at potentially mandating that land would go towards a public interest, the way that parked space is sometimes given minimum requirement. I think that would be something that would help plan for future communities.
Mr. Jessam?
Yeah, it's all about the early discussions on understanding where these developers are planning to invest, and we do work very closely with them on securing property that could be used for public infrastructure. So,
MLA Rankin, you have 40 seconds.
I would just, I think in terms of planning, in terms of getting the best infrastructure in place for families, schools is one thing, but there are other things that developers should be putting. If the province is going to rubber stamp development, then we should be getting something out of it. I'll just end there.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to MLA Timmins, please.
Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate the details that you've already discussed regarding the process. $1 billion a year capital plan is not a small bit of change to manage within the department and to do what you're trying to do with 19 new and replacement schools. I want to move on to Public Works. You've mentioned that there are construction challenges. Actually, it was more Ms. Barbrick that had mentioned that, and caused some delays. There are already a lot of construction happening within the HRM right now, whether it's housing or hospitals. How is the construction industry keeping up with the demand?
Mr. Jessam, please.
yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's incredible. It's great to be part of this. It's really a construction boom. You know, last I've heard there's over 40 cranes in the HRM here, and plus a lot of construction across the province. Really, so you know, it's challenging, right? But I think we're partnering with the industry, like Ms. McClellan stated, with the collaborative design builds. We work with contractors and consultants, bringing a constructability lens into the design process. So they have obviously general contractors and that build schools and bigger infrastructure have the insight to provide that can help us throughout the design process to make sure that it's buildable, for one thing, right? So, and then the investment in skilled trades and the development of our skilled trades in the province. I think the government has made a lot of very good moves. That's very positive in the industry to increase the capacity of our skilled trades.
MLA Timmins.
Thank you. This is for Department of Education. I understand more than 30 schools have skilled trade centers. Could you speak to what exactly a skilled trade center is and its importance during this time like today? Where are we faced with construction industry in high demands? Also, could you speak to how many more schools have the available space and if they are being considered for a skilled trade center?
Deputy Barbrick, please.
Yeah, I thank you for the question. I can start, but I think adding to that would be Mr. Gallagher, because of some of what HRCE has done in the skilled trades in the last while. So there's been so much happen in the last 5 years on skilled trades in school systems. So we now have upwards of 20,000 students exposed to various type of skilled trades work. So we have a few programs that are in pilot around accelerated placement for students that basically in grade 12 start to attend NSCC in the second semester and get credit for essentially, you know, the first half of their first year pre-apprenticeship. So we've got 2 pilots happening right now on that. Skilled trade centers, we've got about, I think, 32 skilled trade centers in the school, and they literally are a shop. The students are working in the shop with teachers, and they're exposed to primarily construction trades, and some of these, in fact, the one that you may choose to speak about in Bedford West is you actually can see that things can be built there, and these students are doing that work themselves with instruction and teachers, and it's exposing them to the trades in a way that kind of got lost over the years, so reacclimatizing. And then we also have the 32 skilled trade centers, but there are a number of other programs now in schools from grade 7 and up where skilled trades are introduced as part of the curriculum and part of the kind of pathways and journeys onto skilled trades. I think the number a few years ago of exposure to skilled trades for students was about 6,000 students in Nova Scotia through various courses. We're up around 20,000 right now. But the impact on students, the enthusiasm of the teachers in that space, and the students' pathway onto a post-secondary that includes a skilled trade is pretty impressive. So if you're interested, I think Mr. Gallagher could talk about that at the school level and what an impact that's having.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher, please.
Thank you, Chair. In the HRCE, we have 6 skills trade centers, but at the grade 10 level in all of our high schools, we offer the introductory course. All of our skills trade centers offer construction and then one other specialty. So there's a real focus on the construction industry, which certainly ties in nicely to what we're talking about today. The other areas of focus, in addition to construction, are culinary arts, manufacturing, and transportation. So we've in each of our 6 locations, you can take those two specialties through grade 11 and 12, and you are fast-tracked into post-secondary and or industry. So it's a remarkable and powerful on-ramp into those industries where we need folks. And the people who are teaching there are specialists in the area. They're not the typical social studies teacher like myself. And so they offer real experience for kids. And, for example, if you go to the Cole Harbour Skills Trade Center, you'll see incredible works of art that are all done in what we call hot labs. It's welding is happening, and kids are learning how to weld. In the Skills Trade Center that we have at Bayview, where we have construction, but we also have culinary arts. We have a restaurant quality kitchen and a chef who is instructing the kids on that level of culinary arts and getting them ready to move into a career in that space. And you see that kind of expertise and dedication in all 6 of the areas. So there's been a real commitment there, and I would say it's certainly for Halifax, can't speak for the province, but for Halifax it's been a tremendous success for us.
MLA Timmins.
I'd like to move it on to my colleagues as well, so they'll have some time. Thank you.
MLA Outfit, please.
That's my cue. Everybody has thanked you for being here this morning, and I want to thank you as well, but I also want to thank you for what you do on a daily basis. There's almost everybody at this table at some point has done something to help me, either in this role or in my previous role, help constituents. And it is kind of amazing. I used to tease my colleagues on council, and I'd say during my time, we built 2 towns in Bedford. We built the town of West Bedford, and we built the town of Larry Utek. And with those, of course, comes incredible needs for infrastructure of all sorts, including schools. And I look at what you've dealt with, the new programs, like the pre-primary and the preschool, the unprecedented growth that many of you have mentioned, the aging facilities, the introduction of special planning areas, and now just again, the announcement of Shannon Park. What's that going to do to you? So that's something you might not have predicted a year or 2 ago. And when the feds say we want affordable housing of a significant size in Shannon Park, it's reasonable to to assume that there be some education requirements. So you kind of play whack-a-mole, although apparently you have a software program that helps you play whack-a-mole. I used to just think it was all Steve and Doug, but it's nice that there is a software program to help you, because It's not easy, and we've thrown a lot of change at you. My question is, what's being done to improve the condition of the existing schools? And there's an example of that in Bedford as well with a heating system. And what factors contribute to the order of the improvements? And then specifically, there was 10 schools that were indicated as being in critical condition. So I'd like to get an idea at these schools, what's being done to get them out of that status, and do they come out of that status, of course, what some improvements are made. So just help us understand a little bit about the ongoing maintenance challenges, but also with what's being done about these 10 schools that are in critical condition.
Thank you. Mr. Arthur, we might take the first two questions first. That was about 4 questions in one. So just to make sure that we get the answers. So the first thing, just maybe you all figured it out, but I think what I heard was, what are we doing about schools that need that? Yeah, okay. So the 10 schools is the focus. How are they being prioritized? And yeah, how are they going to be fixed? So who wants to answer that? Deputy Barbrick?
I will start. Thank you. Thank you for the question. And certainly lots of folks here could add dimension to that. So one of the observations in the audit was that we have not yet completed all of the facility condition assessments for every one of the schools, just shy of 300 schools in the province. So we have completed in a year 250 of them. The ones that were not complete primarily have either been announced for replacement or are newer schools or are just over the 5-year assessment window. They're to be reassessed every 3 to 5 years. So that really does a very detailed assessment of every piece of infrastructure, from its interior to its exterior to a big long list of roofs, mechanical, site work, and assesses the school on, probably about 100 different dimensions and scores it. So one thing that's happened in the last 2 years is our capital repair fund increased from $6 million to $30 million. So recognizing that as important as the new shiny builds is maintaining schools in good condition over time. So that $30 million a year has allowed the department and its partner RCEs and CSAP to do about 50 projects a year. So instead of kind of patchwork, actually doing some comprehensive improvement. So an important thing to note about the facility condition assessment is it informs both repair work as well as decisions on capital replacement projects. So when a score is given and then a roof is replaced, you ideally would snap your fingers and have a new score. It's not quite that literal. So the assessment is done every 3 to 5 years to inform where we put that repair money. So in the last 2 years, we have completed about 100 projects to get these schools all in better condition. So the specific 10 that were referenced in the audit as being, in kind of having the highest facility condition scores, have all had or have underway in 25, 26 major repair projects happening. So I can literally list them off, but I'll give you just a flavor. Alderney School in Dartmouth, a new roof and repaving of some broken up asphalt. So that results in a higher score. So that brings that condition out of the bottom 10 into better condition. Big Tan, Cook Island, windows are being replaced, siding's being replaced. That brings that up. So important to note that none of the schools are unsafe. The dimensions of the assessment are about condition of the school, not safety of the school. If safety issues arise, those are addressed as part of our in-year. We need to resolve those. Caudle Park Elementary, some brick is being repaired, an electrical system is being modernized, school in Lower Sackville, new roof, new windows, Crichton Park, roof, John McNeil School, roof and brick. So The facility condition assessments tell us what the shape is. We then direct our funds that way with our partners, and then that would inherently bring the score up. But the score doesn't get redone after that project. It goes back into the cycle for the 3 to 5 years. So of the remaining schools that the Auditor General identified had not had the facility condition completed, they are under completion this year, so they'll be done. Now, certainly, HRCE has many of these projects, given the sheer number of schools they have. They, through our application process, each RCE and CSAP submits their priority items for capital repair work. That's all assessed by a committee and scored, and the envelope of money is allocated based on that. And throughout the year, Tyler, that I introduced in my opening, is constantly assessing those projects to see if there's any slippage that can be reallocated to another project, or if the price comes in lower than expected. So we make sure that that 30 million envelope is fully utilized in the span of the year. And if a project is identified that can't be completed in that year, it gets bumped forward to the next project. So the goal is spend every dollar of the 30 million in that year.
MLA Taggart, please.
I just much of what I wanted to ask has been addressed, but I want to go to Chief Executive Jessom there. Deputy Barber took us through the SJM, really up to 21 or 22, to where it really get into construction. She spoke of all the challenges, and I know that it's been a cause of a lot of concern and angst for the community. I understand that, but I kind of wonder if you could run us through a little bit about what the challenges you faced, as the builder, so to speak, when it got on your plate, the challenges and things that you've done to try and expedite the process and kind of make that happen.
Mr. Jessom?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, it's look, we're very disappointed too that it never opened as scheduled, right? But we're working to try to bring it open it as quickly as possible. The contractor's been doing a terrific job, right? Working in this market. There's been well over 100 trades on average on site every day, right? Doing work. That's been expediting the work. I think to say that in the city with the robust construction market that we now have is pretty good, right? So they've been doing a lot. They've been doing extra overtime hours as well, bringing trades in on the weekends, extra long hours in the evenings, right? So a lot has been done to try to speed it up to make sure that we're able to open it. We had a labor disruption in the summer, which affected some critical path items, which affected the schedule again, right? But we're working every day. We work with the contractor. We meet with the contractor to find solutions.
MLA Wong, please.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So one of the things I want to congratulate you on is the use of modulars right now. Modulars go up fast. We have one in Fall River at George P. Vanier. From what I understand, I've toured it. I've heard from teachers and parents and students, and it's a fast way to get when we have population growth to get things done well, and I believe that is certainly done well. There's no doubt that schools age. They absolutely need replacement. They need to be fixed. They need all of these things. But I think we need to understand at the crux of all of this is how students learn. And facilities do not teach students. Teachers teach students. Students learn. Hopefully teachers are teaching the way that students do learn. So I really want to say that a lot of the conversation has been very Halifax-centric. When I hear a comment about, my goodness, students are being bused 30 minutes, it's like that's very Halifax-centric, city-centric, where if we go to rural Nova Scotia, it's not uncommon for students to be on a bus for an hour and a half each way. So I really want to put that out there as well. But the priority of this government is education itself, in how kids learn, on getting the best teachers possible into the system, to get more teachers, quality teachers into the system. That's why there's been an expansion in teacher programming and a lot of supports for our schools
Order.
to do that.
Emily Wong, can you go to questions, please? Thank you. Emily Wong.
I'm framing my question. Thank you very much. So the classrooms today feel very different, and schools look very different. So how have things changed in school design and construction with the way that we now understand that students learn and teachers teach?
Deputy Barbrick, please.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Modulars, if you haven't had a reason to see one of these modular facilities, they really are anywhere from 4 to 12 classrooms. They're not what we think about, or what I think about, coming into this job. Very different between portables and modulars. So that's, I think, when people hear about the 113 modulars put in place over the last 3 years, people are thinking about portables, which there are some of. We've only added a couple portables in the last few years. It's primarily modulars. Modulars really are like mini schools. And I couldn't believe when I was first in one that is considered a modular, because it basically looks like a small school to me, with full classrooms, fully digital enabled, washrooms. They're not at all what I kind of had in mind. And the use of those has been a good alternative when we've had the explosion of population that we have that was unpredictable. So it's not the long-term goal, but it's an excellent interim solution, and they probably will be in place and could be in place for a long time. Standard. So there's a standard in place.
I'm sorry, order, please. We might be able to get back to that later. We're going to move on to MLA Wozni, please. Oh, yeah, and the second round is 12 minutes. MLA Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. I want to direct this question to the Department of Public Works. SJAM was announced in 2018, and it still isn't ready. We've just heard from Deputy Minister Barbrick there's no firm date for the opening of that facility. Yet the department was somehow able to purchase land off of Larry Utek Boulevard in 2019 and have a pair of new schools open at a time of concurrent challenges with SJAM build for the start of the school year in 2023. I'm wondering if the Department of Public Works can explain such different outcomes in communities that are barely city-centric 20-minute drive apart.
That's for Deputy Barbrick? Yes, Deputy Barbrick? That's for Public Works. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Jessen, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, construction on this school has been, as Deputy Barbrick had stated, went through a number of processes. Initially started out as a renovation, an A&A. We evaluated it for an A&A. Seemed to be better to build a new school that would serve the community better. We got well into the design. Then, a growing community and different needs in the community were identified as childcare. We added the additional scope after and we had to go back to redesign, so it lengthened the design process. In construction, we're meeting challenges, of the industry, trying to get with everything else that's going on in the city, trying to meet those, make sure that we keep enough skilled trades on the site to keep moving. As I said, this summer we experienced some labor challenges, labor disruption, which affected some critical path items. But I think we went through a number of different things as COVID was part of the process as well. So I guess we had a number of different challenges throughout the years on this one. Like I said, we're certainly understand that and are disappointed that we didn't open initially as committed, but I think we're working hard with all partners to get it to open very soon.
Mr. Wozni.
Yeah, I'll simply note as part of this hearing that the experience, the challenges facing the SJM build are equivalent to the challenges facing the double West Bedford build, really, and that was a project where the concept changed a couple times in the process. It was originally supposed to be a PDA building, and then a high school building was added to that project. That's another project where things kind of pivoted partway through the process, and yet 20 minutes down the road in a very different community, a very different result was realized. And for parents that continue to not have a firm opening date, all of the reasons why it can't be delivered on time, I think, are now clear. But we have a group of kids that for the fourth year are busing a half an hour outside of a community they don't live in, and that's not normal for them. It's a tough pill to swallow with no clear end in sight to that process. I'd like to move ahead to some other questions for EECD. We've heard that the department relies on enrollment projections when considering new growth schools. What we haven't heard is that how the department considers classroom caps. Parents in Halifax have expressed concern on multiple occasions now that within a year of either new replacement schools or new growth schools opening, they've needed modular or portable classrooms in short order. I'm wondering if you can outline why the department doesn't incorporate class caps as part of its consideration in determining the right number of classrooms, not only to accommodate the present needs of school communities, but the projectable future needs of community.
Deputy Barbrick, please, with 7 minutes.
Thanks for the question. Okay, a couple things. I'm going to try to stay coherent here. The school build standard, the DC 350, Part 2, Educational Facilities Design Requirement Manual, has a number of elements that determine the size of a school. So included in that is the programs that will be delivered in that school, the projected enrollment per grade level, the calculation of specialty spaces, the number of classrooms per grade level, and any additional space provisions that are required. So that is essentially a formula, as I like to call a numbers machine. The information about the school and the projected enrollment runs the square footage of the school. So it's not I don't decide, these folks don't decide. It's actually a formula, including class caps. So it's literally however many kids are projected 10 years out, divided by class caps, determines how many classrooms need to be in the school. So in the reality of the enrollment growth and the lack of capital infrastructure that had been invested for many years, perfect storm, things were already backlogged, and then we had a big population growth, and we are now playing catch up. So in that standard includes the size of a school that is the target, given best evidence around what's the best environment for children to learn. So because I spent 4 years in the nursing home business, it's 144 beds. No more than 144 beds, because it changes the feeling of community. So for schools, that standard is 500 children for an elementary school, 700 for a junior high, or what we call the junior high, and 1,000 for a high school. So that's the targets and the goal. There is sometimes some fluctuation on use of existing schools based on configuration or need to deal with boundaries or where one school might be kind of getting to its max. But that's what establishes the new standard for the build. So a couple of things that I need to finish the point on. Two perfect storms. We were a backlog of school builds prior to 2020. and then a massive population growth. So the things we have done are the 19 new builds, 5 of which opened last year, $40 million in modulars in the last 3 years, $30 million in capital repair, and getting these schools built and open. So in the meantime, my colleague at HRCE and every other RCE and CSAP are doing boundary reviews, reconfiguration where they have to utilize the capacity that we have while we play catch up in all these other ways.
Okay, thank you. MLA Wozni. And I'm just going to ask the room, the committee members, to keep conversations, side conversations, to a minimum, because it's very distracting when I'm trying to listen to the witnesses' answers. Thank you. Go ahead. MLA Wozni.
Thank you. Just want to ask a question about decision-making about portables and modulars. In the Auditor General's report, and there's sort of 3 sort of buckets, if you will. There's new growth schools, replacement schools, and major renovations. In our prep meeting for this, the Auditor General commented that really a 4th bucket probably is warranted, and that's the bucket for portables and modulars, given that $162 million was spent on HRCE portables and modulars during the period of the audit, and that amounts to at least 1 brand new school built. And yet, what we learned is that this effectively is a lump sum pot of money, and there's no clarity around decisions about where modulars are going to be built and how those decisions are made. I'm wondering, what the department can say about enhancing transparency and communication about decision-making regarding the placement of modulars and portables. I want to be clear, I don't question the need for portables or modulars. I've taught in both settings as a teacher, and recognize they're, an interim solution to a larger problem. They're not illegitimate decisions to be made. My question is, how will the department act to be transparent about decisions about what schools get modulars and in what sequence, so community understands how those decisions are arrived at in the public interest?
Deputy Barbrick with 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thanks. That wasn't actually in the AAG recommendations, so I hear you on that, but I'm learning it. Your comment is the first time I've heard it. So I think with modulars and the funding that we've had, primarily they've all gone in HRCE where the growth is. A couple of outliers from that in non-Halifax area. But to date, we've been able to meet the needs. So HRCE identifies its priorities where they're concerned around overcrowding, what they can manage through boundary adjustments or reconfiguration of grades. And then we've been able to meet the gap with modulars, and the funding envelope that we've had has met the need. So we haven't to date had to, other than get them off the assembly line and ready to be on site, we haven't to date had to kind of weed any out because we couldn't do it. So when they come off the assembly line and where they land is often to deal with how much space does the school have available? Is there additional utilities that need to be factored in? Can they accept delivery? Because we don't put them in during the school year. They all go in the 8 weeks of summer. So to date, we haven't had to make choices over something else. We've been able to meet the need with the funding envelope.
Emily Wozni, 30 seconds.
As someone who's taught in both portable and modular classrooms, they're a necessary interim measure, but they're not the same as in building classrooms. Is the department and its partners tracking data about the impact of learning in these spaces versus learning in regular classroom spaces?
Order, please. We'll have to leave that one on the floor. Next, we'll go to MLA Marquette for 12 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question is around the repairs. You said $30 million. So I believe $25 million of that is from the feds. There was an announcement made a few years back around that money. So I'm just trying to confirm that because it's important because if the Fed if that's predominantly federal government money that came in back in 2021, is that money still committed by the feds, or will the province have to pick up the rest? Because initially there was $6 million in infrastructure for repairs, but then the feds announced $25 million on top of it, which is your $30 million.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question, and you see my confused face. To my knowledge, there is not a federal transfer related to that $30 million in TCA funds.
Used to be the ISEP
Oh,
program.
yes. So there used to be my colleague can probably address the ISIP program that actually is included now.
I recognize Executive Deputy LaFleche.
Tricky. Oh, this one now. Yeah, you will remember that was an ISEP. We were allowed to reallocate some of the money in the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program capital. I think it was a one-year only deal, but we'd have to get back and we can get you more information. It was the government that increased it from 6 million to 24. So that's actually comes out of our current capital allotment. It's part of our annual capital planning. The Invest in Canada Infrastructure federal money, that's a historical item dating, I think, to 21, 22.
I recognize MLA Mombercat.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the answer on that. I was just curious because if it was still a federal commitment, we were hopeful that the federal government continues on that, because then the province would have to do it, but the province is footing the bill for it. So I appreciate the information. On a question I asked earlier, and this is something it's really going to be critical, and it's really kind of critical not only in HRCE, but across the province. Like, the population is going to change. You mentioned the software. Does that software track immigration targets, or does it track any of that information? Because this is going to be, we're in a situation where the economy is such that we're seeing it soften. We know that our newcomers coming to Nova Scotia is going to see a decline. You're seeing it in our university system now. So all of this is going to play a huge impact on how the department is going to plan. So are you tracking the immigration side of things too as well?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you. And if I put on my advanced ed hat for a minute, living the immigration student caps every day right now. So a couple of things have happened. And yes, the targets, as they're set by Canada for the province, are included. And because those targets have been reduced so significantly across all three streams, work permits, study permits, and temporary foreign workers, the numbers have changed pretty dramatically in terms of that increase. On top of that, which we talk about everywhere, and a little less related to this, but not in terms of capital needs, the Canadian brand damage for immigration from the kind of changes in immigration policy and how volatile it's been have really harmed even our ability to get the study work and temporary foreign workers that we once had and needed. So it's really, the landscape has changed dramatically. So the Berger projections include the caps, but the scenarios around different possibilities for how this might change are a moving target that we're trying to keep line of sight to for a number of different reasons.
MLA Mombercat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And excuse me, this is something that we're all going to be watching moving forward. And it's really going to, I think, play a big part not only in HRCE but across the province and how we look at infrastructure and what is necessary. One of the other pieces of the infrastructure, and something we all support, was the school lunch program. In your new builds, are you looking at every one of these facilities? Is there a blueprint part of that where the schools are going to have their own facilities to actually deliver that program? We know that some schools are shipping, obviously there's food's coming in from an outside source. Are you looking at that in your designs?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks. There's 3 different ways that we deliver school lunch programs right now. One is what I would call a traditional, grew up in Tatamagouche, kitchen, lunch ladies that work there, and then the second model is what's subcontracted out to a company that brings the food in, and then there's kind of a hybrid where the existing kitchen in the school is subcontracted to a company that comes in and prepares lunch on site. So there's sort of three models. We definitely know that the traditional cafeteria, proper kitchen is what's the most successful in the school lunch program. A little bit of adjustments made as needed and that sort of thing. So in schools going forward, a kitchen with capacity to do lunch is definitely part of the priority area around school lunch.
MLA Marquette.
Thank you, and that's good to hear, because you are right. Like, we hear it on the ground, and it's unscientific that the schools that actually have those facilities, the program is more successful. And we also hear of a lot of waste in situations too as well, which I think the government should be tracking. But that's for a conversation for another day. You know, how much time do I have left, Madam? 6 minutes. My next question really is. It's more directed towards the Auditor General. Just the conversation, this is her report. You know, we're here having a conversation about a whole number of facets of the report, some things that aren't in the report. But I would, if possible, like some comments from the Auditor General on what we've been talking about today and the confidence level of the office moving forward to better plan. You know what I mean? We're talking about explosive population growth. Now we're in a situation where trends may change. All of this impacts how we plan as a province accordingly, not only in HRCE, but across the province. So I know you don't have a microphone. If there's a way for the Auditor General to make comment, I would appreciate it. It's your report, and we want to show the respect.
Thank you. We do have time for the Auditor General to make comments at the end, but we'll take this specific question now, if you like. So, Mr. LaFlèche, wondering if you could lend your microphone to Ms. Adair. So, no, actually, could you? She'll just come up to the microphone. Yeah, that would be great. So, I'll recognize Ms. Adair at Mr. LaFlèche's microphone.
Okay. Thank you for the question. And so in general, I think the exchange this morning has been very good in terms of the whole accountability process. Throughout the line of questioning, I think almost all of our recommendations have been referred to and an indication by the witnesses that they are going to implement them, some of them already, some of them in process. But so that would be my general comment. You asked about going forward, and I don't think it's really appropriate for me to speak about going forward. We did give positive comments in the report on the model and the inputs to the model, so I'm confident that they've got a good system in place to project enrollment going forward. So hopefully that's helpful.
MLA Marquette.
That was my only question for now. So I appreciate it. We'd like to show the respect and give you the opportunity to comment on your work and the office's work. My next question is around really the consultation process. And you know, you're seeing the government now take over essentially planning in the HRM. So, you know, there's processes in place where, as former councillors, I'm a former councillor with the CBRM, there's public participation processes that are in place that we see when developments arise. Like, this really changes that relationship with the province coming in and taking over that role. You know, we're all kind of curious to see how that's going to play out. But the key really, in all of it, regardless of who's responsible, is giving the public the ability to have a say. You're seeing big developments here around Halifax. You're going to get a lot of feedback from people, and now that the province is really taking over that planning role, or trying, or however that's going to work out, they should be able to be a little more forthright in selecting land and assets that they want to put forward for schools and other public infrastructure as these developments arise. So, you know, the other part of that too as well is it's the elected representatives, MLAs, have a lot of feedback from their communities. They have a lot of knowledge about their communities. And I guess my question is what more of a role can we be playing as elected representatives in our communities to help support that new infrastructure or existing infrastructure to support our kids?
Deputy Barbarick with 2 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for the question. You wear an enviable hat, all of you. It's a difficult role to play in your communities, given the kind of varied interests. I think for school builds, the steering committee piece and encouraging people that kind of want to make a commitment to the time that's spent as part of the design and then becoming kind of a conduit to the community for information is a really important role, and one certainly that for Halifax, HRCE plays a larger role than we do in ensuring that the contribution to the design process is fulsome with both educators as well as community members part of that, and encouraging people to participate in that information and holding us all to account around priority needs. The facility condition assessments, I think, are a terrific addition. Those were not standard practice until the last couple of years. So the fact that 200 schools were fully assessed last year, because, there is, depending on your own community, I grew up in Tatamagouche, all I would generally see is my Tatamagouche school and some in the surrounding area. So the opportunity to have an unbiased assessment of infrastructure and make sure that we're assessing it on kind of condition, and then looking at our population growth and really holding ourselves to account around data-informed decisions in that, I think, is the opportunity.
Order, please. We'll move on to MLA McLeod, please.
Oh.
I'm so...
Oh, yeah, thank you. You know what? I'll turn it over to MLA Wong to finish off a question he had.
Okay, MLA Wong, please.
Thank you, Chair. Permission to frame my question?
Yes, as long as it's not going into government and government priorities, because this committee is about the Auditor General and the multi-partisan approach to improving systems and departments. And so when we veer off into government priorities, it's not a part of this committee. So if you can stay away from that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chair. Others have also framed their questions. I appreciate the opportunity. So really just continuing on with the same theme that I was on about school design. John Hattie, one of the leading educational resources in the world, researchers in the world, has said that the number one factor in students' learning is collective teacher efficacy. So therefore, the ability for teachers to talk about students and to work on ways to make it better for them. We know at the same time that the nature of our student population has changed. I mean, students need places to regulate. They need places to be able to have those conversations and to have those interactions with their peers. So how has the design of schools changed in order to accommodate teachers to work collaboratively and for students to have what they need?
Deputy Barbarick, please. Is it yes?
Yes.
I'm going to start, if that's okay, and then I know my colleague Steve Gallagher that has significantly more experience than I do in terms of being an educator and how that space translates to teachers. I know you do as well. But the school standards that exist are relatively new. So the introduction of space that's not just classroom space for some of those things that you talk about, specialty teacher support rooms, breakout rooms from the classroom, space between classrooms for small group work in terms of additional support to the classroom that used to have to go maybe down to another floor. So the introduction of those things, private bathrooms with full walls that are non-gender specific, but separate and private space for everybody, and then common spaces for the things that make sense. Tremendous change in practice over time. That sweet spot that I think is still under lots of discussion with educator kind of excellence is this issue of what's the right size of a school and how does that change the dynamic in the school. So we have a particular set of numbers that we work with right now, but that's certainly one that's up for lots of discussion and I expect will change over time. But if the chair is comfortable with it, I think Mr. Gallagher would have, particularly Bedford West, which just opened under these new standards, I think would have lots of additional information to add.
Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the question. It's quite a good one, and it extends beyond new school build. And I think it's important to say at the outset that building is secondary. In fact, maybe it's way down the list compared to a skilled staff, deeply committed, skilled staff of teachers and support team in every school. I'm proud to say we have that in the HRCE. And so oftentimes when we see some of our older buildings, there's a quick judgment made. That's a mistake because magic is happening in classrooms every day in those buildings. It's all about the people. It's not about the structure. Having said that, we do know that student outcomes improve when people work together. And some of our new builds, the builds that I've walked through, the deputy mentioned West Bedford, but others are designed to create a much greater flow of both staff and students, opportunity for interaction, and in particular, opportunity for collaboration. There are shared spaces for students, and there are shared spaces for staff in a way that the traditional school model of 20 or 30 years ago didn't have. And in as much as, you know, we build our buildings and we shape our buildings and then they shape us, there is a significant impact there. But you can't put that ahead of a committed team of skilled professionals working together. And that's what we see every day in our schools in the HRCE.
And we'll move on to MLA McLeod, please.
Good morning, folks. As I've learned in the AG's report, there's a scoring committee to determine the priority of projects. Now, in the case that there are projects that have the same score, how does the department decide which school projects to prioritize?
Deputy Barbrick?
Thank you for the question. So, you know, in terms of process, the RCEs and CSAP put forward their priorities that they're experiencing in terms of enrollment growth, capital needs, and repairs. So then they come into the department. There is a committee that essentially sifts and sorts those into three categories: low, medium, and high. And that's done with a committee of folks from both the Department of Education, Public Works, and that set of projects is divided into buckets, and then the complete sifting and sorting goes to the minister, and cabinet makes a decision based on the available funds. Regional distribution is always a focus on a combination of things, both builds and replacements as well as capital repairs, and making sure that we are kind of bringing the province up together and that we don't have tremendous disparity across the province. Of course, HRCE and population growth there's just been a bit of a pressure there that has had to be addressed. Hence, a lot of our capital projects are to respond to that population growth. But there is, you know, a committee that does a fair amount of robust discussion back and forth. Tyler, that I introduced earlier, is on speed dial with all of the RCEs and their operations leaders in assessing those projects to make sure that they are adequately reflected in the sorting.
MLA McLeod?
In the report, the second recommendation is basically that the Department of Education and the Department of Public Works work together to resolve delays in construction. So there's a lot of projects on the go. Have you been able to find ways to streamline the design and build process or find efficiencies?
Deputy Barbrick?
Thank you. So my colleague on my left and my colleague on my right spend a whole lot of time together trying to work through these 19 projects. So the collaboration across the departments and the RCEs is at an all-time high as we try to work through these things as quickly as we can. Public Works has certainly looked at different ways to commission these projects so that they're, instead of one person designing it and then a separate company going back out to tender to build it, they're packaging more things. I won't speak on their behalf. They certainly are more articulate than I am about that. But we are continuing to have kind of high touch with each of these projects, with weekly meetings across the departments to get as efficient as we can. And then Public Works' tendering process, they're working on every place they can streamline that. And I think they would be able to speak to that better than I can.
Emily McLeod, would you like to hear from Public Works?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, Ms. McClellan, please. And we have 4 minutes left. 3 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be glad to elaborate on that. So as Deputy Minister Barbrick just alluded to, we are collaborating quite frequently. We meet regularly on a weekly basis, more obviously if needed. But we've really started to look at the process that we have in place, starting right with the architectural and engineering designs and looking for ways to standardize those, ways that we can repeat them because we do have such a large number of schools going forward. We are in the process now, and we have had that underway for a while, of adopting a school planning guide. So again, that will set out certain parameters that will make decision points easier as we start to go forward. When it comes to our contracting, we've certainly taken a collaborative approach with that as well. And I think I've talked about this before, but we're using the collaborative design-build approach, where we have our builder, our designer working together from the very beginning to look for efficiencies. It also allows us opportunities to tender certain packages earlier. Maybe we could get going on site works while design is still, very active and very underway. And I think one other piece of this that's really worth mentioning is land. Land has been a big sticking point and, somewhat problematic as to get the right piece of land for the right programming. But the Strategic Land Fund has certainly assisted us in that part in dealing with that and is allowing us to get out ahead of some of these new builds that we know are coming. So again, another very important piece of the collaboration and the streamlining that we have underway.
Emily McLeod with just under a minute.
Okay, I'll go to the short question then. Just curious, we talked a lot about portables and even modulars. Has it been done before, or is there any plan to move modulars or portables from one school to another when the need changes?
Deputy Barbrick?
Yeah, thanks for that. So they are technically built to be able to be moved. The lifespan of these modulars is about 30 years. And I don't know that in practice we will be moving them a lot. So they are technically designed that way. They can be taken apart and reassembled somewhere else. I think we're going to find that the strategic life of the asset will probably make sense to put it in place and leave it in place. But they can be moved. It takes a little bit of money to disassemble and reassemble them, but it can happen if we need to.
Order, please. And that concludes the time for questions. And now I will give our witnesses a chance for some closing remarks. Want to start with Deputy Barbrick?
Sure.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks. Thank you for the discussion today. It's an important one. There is not much more coveted by a community than their local school. The Auditor General has given us excellent recommendations that we will enact. It is focused on growth schools, of which we have not had to do very much until recent years. So At this point, we are building 19 schools. 5 opened last year. We're spending $30 million on capital repairs and another $40 million on modulars to make sure that schools aren't overcrowded. There are things that we need to do to improve process, and we absolutely will do that. But the right things are happening to move the need for schools forward in the province.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gallagher, would you like to make some closing remarks?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank all of you for the opportunity to come here with my colleague Doug and to share the story of growth in the HRCE. It has been quite a dramatic event for us over the last few years, and growing by more than a large high school every year is very challenging. I'll say to MLA Mumbercut's question, we only grew by a large elementary school this year, so the breathing room is welcome. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And then we'll go to Mr. Jessam, please, if you have some closing remarks.
No, I don't have anything to add. Just appreciate the opportunity to be before the committee.
Thank you. And we'll go to the Auditor General. So because this topic relates to an Auditor General report, we will now be offering her the chance to make any remarks based on what she's heard. Ms. Adair at Paula Flush's mic. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as I said, I think it's been a very good exchange, focused on the findings in our report, focused on our recommendations. The only thing I would add is that we will be following up on implementation of the recommendations as part of our routine process. After allowing the department some time to implement them, we will report back to the committee in terms of whether or not, in fact, they are. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So the witnesses may go. I know there's media probably outside, and we will continue on with committee business. We only have 11 minutes, so I'd like to just barrel on through without a break, if that's okay. So the first thing, if you go to your agenda and your package, is that we have to approve the Subcommittee on Agenda and Procedures Record of Decision from September 17th. So members have been provided with the record of decision relating to the witnesses for the 2025 report of the Auditor General around planning and acquiring nursing home beds. And the record, excuse me, is that, the topic would be the nursing home beds, and the witness would be the Department of Seniors and Long-Term Care Deputy Minister. So I need a motion to approve that record of decision. Mr. McLeod?
I move that we approve the record of decision made by the subcommittee on September 17th.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Oh, no, but is there any discussion? No? Great. All in favor of that motion? Anyone against? Okay, that motion carries. Then we have a deferred motion from the September 10th meeting. At that meeting, members were provided with a letter from CEO Karen Oldfield requesting that's from Nova Scotia Health, requesting that Derek Spinney, Vice President of Corporate Services and CFO, and Scott McKenna, Chief Information Officer, attend the meeting regarding the AG report on cybersecurity instead of herself, as they are best able to answer the detailed questions. So the following motion was deferred from September 10th. And this is a motion, I believe, from MLA Wozni, that the chair requests the CEO of Nova Scotia Health Authority attend the meeting where that topic comes for review. And before we have any discussion on that, I'm just wondering if the AG, because it pertains to an AG report, if the AG has any comments on this motion, and then I'll open it up for discussion on the motion. Ms. Adair at Tracy Barbrick's mic.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so in previous discussions, the question about whether or not the Deputy Minister should appear, my comment remains the same, that the Deputy Minister is the individual that is most responsible and accountable for the implementation of our report. In anticipation of this question, I did go to our colleagues, the Canadian Audit and Accountability Foundation, Leslie Burns, you may recall that name as she was involved in our orientation and our training with the committee. And I got a response late yesterday, and I do have copies of this, and I will give it to the committee clerk. But I thought you might be interested to know in what the practice is across the country in terms of the deputy minister appearing at public accounts committees. And it's a couple of pages, but I'll just take some snippets of it that I think are most useful. They did a survey in 2017, and so these are Canadian jurisdictions, about, the question was, who does the PAC have the power to call as witnesses, and who do they call? 13 of 14 jurisdictions indicated that they have the power and do call the deputy ministers. And the one jurisdiction that qualified their answer, they followed up and did a recent scan, and at this point in time, that jurisdiction now also indicates for most meetings, they do have the deputy minister. So that was a 2017 survey. Something that's more recent, they did a scan of the last 10 meetings of 6 jurisdictions, so Canada, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, British Columbia, and Newfoundland and Labrador. So that's 6 jurisdictions, the last 10 meetings. And among the last 10 meetings for each jurisdiction related to an Auditor General's report, only 4 of the 46 meetings did not include the deputy minister. So in general, the practice is that the deputy minister appears except for rare situations. With respect to this topic, cybersecurity readiness of the healthcare system, there are 3 deputies that we are going to be asking to appear. Nova Scotia Health is one of the 3. I would point out that one of the deputies is no longer there, that was there at the time we did the audit, and that's the deputy of CSDS. So with that in mind, I think it's even more important that the deputy, or the CEO, or acting CEO of NSH, does appear. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. I just want to flag that we have 5 minutes left. Do we need to extend the meeting, or can we extend the meeting by 5 minutes? We don't need to extend the meeting. Okay, does anyone else have any discussion on this? Oh. Okay, sorry, I didn't see you. Emily Wong, please.
Thank you, Chair. We do support the motion. The reason that we chose to defer it was because yourself as Chair and the Vice Chair were both absent.
Okay, thank you. Emily Wozni, do you have anything to add?
Seeing as there's support for the motion, I'm happy to let it roll.
Okay, great. So all in favor of the motion? Anyone against? Great, the motion carries. Last piece of business is the annual report. Members were previously provided with the, I'm not supposed to have props, but this is it, with the 2025 annual report of the committee to review, and no changes were received. The report was on September 10th meeting agenda for approval, but the meeting ran out of time. So I need a motion to approve the 2025 annual report for the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Emily McLeod?
I move that the report be accepted and presented, be accepted as presented and sent back to the House.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion? Anyone against? Okay, the motion carries, and we'll bring that back to the House in the spring session. Okay, so if there's no other business, then I'll just mention our next meeting, which is October 22nd, and the Departments of Growth and Development and the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Service Nova Scotia will be here to discuss the Nova Scotia Loyal Program, support for Nova Scotia businesses. If there's no further business, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.